right to freedom that we have, which is like the second classification of fundamental rights, articles 19 to 22. These are the articles which we have over here. Okay, so Article 19 talks about protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc. As in, these are not like related to any specific area that, okay, something related to speech or expression or something. These may be related to some general topics also, all right? Not like from one specific area, but as such, some rights that we need for our enjoyment, right? Some like basic rights that we need, these are been listed here. That's why it is certain rights, not like specifically related to some area. Like if you look at the other articles, they have specified it properly, like protection in respect of conviction for offenses. We are providing some protection, but it is in terms of conviction for offenses. This is related to life and personal liberty. But this one is like in general, certain types of rights we are talking about. Okay, so all citizens shall have the right. Now, because in your syllabus, right, this syllabus is like very like limited number of topics are there. So you can try to remember one thing, which is whether like only for the fundamental rights part I am speaking, you can try to remember whether a certain fundamental right is available to citizens or is it available to both citizens as well as foreigners also. Okay, you can like maybe prepare a list of it and then try to remember it. Whatever is the article from where they are like asking a question, you can mention that as well, that this certain right is available only to citizens or maybe both for citizens as well as non-citizens, that you can mention in your answer as well. So Article 19 is having some subclauses, Article 19 clause 1, and then we have all these 6 different types of rights. Previously, it used to be 7 types of rights, but then this one, Article 19(1)(f) is being removed, which talks about property, right to property. So what kind of a right is this one right now? Like right to property, it's no more a fundamental right. But then what kind of a right it is?
It is a constitutional right.
It is a constitutional right. So why was this right being removed from this part?
I mean, in interest of world at large, like public at large, if we want to construct a road, we should acquire the property of someone. So they have removed that.
Yes, so it used to create a lot of trouble because we had the like jamindari system and all was very much prevalent, right? So there used to be a lot of jamindari abolition or land reform laws which were introduced by state governments of various states, Kerala, Punjab, like that it used to be passed. And then people used to challenge that we have a fundamental right under Article 19(1)(f). So how come there is a legislation that is taking away this right? So those legislations used to be challenged, and finally it was removed by 44th Amendment Act and it was added as a constitutional right only. And that too, it makes it like very clear. Person not to be deprived of property. Otherwise, you will not be deprived of property if you are owner of a land, right? Under Transfer of Property Act, if you have owned a property, you would not simply be deprived of your property, but then saved by authority of law. Under law, if there is some provision, those provisions would be valid. That's why we see, like you gave the example, construction of road. National highway authorities may acquire some private plots of land as well for the purpose of construction of road. So this is nothing but would fall under here. Like a person, it would be valid because it's itself mentions under the authority of law, unless and until National Highway Authorities of India is like taking some arbitrary step, not providing the compensation or something, it would not be an issue as such. So as of now, we have 6 different classification of fundamental rights. First one is that all the citizens will have right to freedom of speech and expression. So what is this right all about? Freedom of speech and expression.
The right to express one's opinions.
Right to express one's opinions. Correct. So what else is included or like is implied by this right? Like most of the fundamental rights, even though we see that it's just one statement, one word, there are certain things which are also being implied like within that right only. So freedom of speech and expression also, it means we are free to express ourselves, we are free to share our opinions, but yeah, there are certain reasonable restrictions. These are not absolute. But then we have this legislation, right to Information Act 2005. Before that legislation came also, like before 2005 also, people wanted to get certain information, right? And that point in time, we were as such not having a right to information. That point in time, people relied on this particular article. They said that, okay, fine, Constitution is giving us freedom of speech and expression. But when we will be able to express ourselves properly? Only when we have the necessary information. If we don't have the information, what would we express? So this right sort of becomes meaningless unless and until we are given a right to seek information also. Like that, this right was interpreted. We have some cases also will include that when we are discussing the question paper. I saw there was one question paper where it was like speech and expression, some cases they were mentioning. So we will add that part, that point in time. Okay, so speech and expression as such would also include freedom to seek or the right to seek information. It even includes freedom of press, right? Press can publish some statements or some information, whatever is happening to generate good public opinion, that is also included. Like there is an entire topic on this, like freedom of press versus parliamentary privileges. Like members of parliament are given some privileges that if they feel that this certain part of a parliamentary proceeding should not be like published by the press, they can say that this part should not be published. And after that, if press publishes, there are lot many cases wherein cases were being filed against the press that how come you have just published it even after we like impose restrictions sort of things. All those would fall under speech and expression, that we are having freedom of speech and expression, but this is subject to all these restrictions or limitations given under clause 2 of the legislation. Okay, what about second one, assemble peacefully without arms?
People can hold rallies.
People can hold rallies, yes.
Or object to or protest peacefully.
Yes. So assembly of people is allowed, like people can gather together for any sort of purpose it might be. Like you would see there are some other fundamental rights which are like cultural and educational rights. There it says that in order to preserve our culture also we have some rights. You would see sometimes, have you ever seen like tribal communities mostly would have some festivals that they would organize where they would sort of show the culture to other outsiders? Anyone, have you seen?
Yes, ma'am.
You have seen, okay. Which community, where have you seen?
Ma'am, in Noti, like they will show the Badaga is the minor community, ma'am. They will use it to express the dance, like the tunnel they will do cultural activities, ma'am.
Okay. Is it like some festival or is it like some?
Yeah, ma'am, in festival, like they will do.
Festival, okay. Correct. So this is nothing but assembly again, right? They are assembling and then they are showing the culture, or they are encouraging the younger generation maybe to learn from that. Same has happened, like there are many tribes across India where it happens, right? More, I have seen in northeastern area, so many tribal communities would organize these festivals, and people from all over other places, they would go there and they would attend those festivals. These are nothing but for their like assembly of people. Same ways you will also see there are like there would be some small groups of people where maybe like a group of poets, a group of some writers, a group of people who just write some maybe short stories. They would write the thing, they would like assemble at some place, and they will just recite those maybe poems or read that story for other people to hear. Mostly in some libraries also these kind of things are organized, and in small communities like groups of people may also come together and do these things. This is also nothing but sort of an assembly. For so many different reasons people would assemble, right? Early morning you would see all the parks, there would be people, just they would gather and they would start like laughing, right? These are also nothing but assembly. Some people may gather to do yoga, something, whatever. This is nothing but assembly. We see some rallies also, so many other things without arms. Even protest is allowed, right? If you read the labor laws, their provisions are given that peacefully you can do protest, different types of protest, everything has been mentioned. So peacefully we are allowed to assemble. But yes, sometimes there may be some rules and restrictions that we need to follow. Maybe to organize a rally, you would need to inform the local police station and take some permission or approvals from DC. Those requirements may vary from place to place. If anything is applicable in your area, maybe you would need to follow that. Same ways, like during COVID-19, I have seen that this Durga Puja, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So like Durga Puja, which is like celebrated, like it's celebrated like in a grand way. So during that time, what happens that you cannot like, otherwise there was no restriction as such, right? It used to be organized like everywhere in such a grand way. But because there was COVID going on, there were like a rules and regulations that were released from the government side, that whoever are there in the committee, they need to do some health checkup, they should have like a COVID negative report, this, that, so many procedures. So in case there are something that needs to be followed, because again, it's not like an absolute right. For public safety, public health and other reasons, there may be certain restrictions imposed as well. But otherwise, we are free to assemble as well. What about the third one, association, union, cooperative societies?
Citizens can come together and to form associations, like to achieve a common goal related to their work or better.
Any example of maybe cooperative society?
Like factory unions, ma'am.
Yes, factory unions.
Ma'am, even in our students' community, there are associations.
Yes.
Karnataka state.
Correct. And they are doing a good job, right? In protesting everywhere. Correct. So those associations are also right? In universities, colleges, there would be students union, student association. Correct. All these are nothing but like it's a right that we have. We can like form associations or unions. In fact, for unions, we have like a law in altogether, Trade Unions Act, which in fact encourages formation of trade unions, that for the purpose of welfare of both sort of management and the workers, trade unions are necessary, because workers might not be able to represent or raise their voice, and there may be like thousands of workers. It's not possible for the management to like have a conversation with all of them. So it makes sense that they have a union where some person would represent like interest of all the workers. So that ways these things are also like encouraged. Same ways there may be workers association, some welfare associations also we see. I recently saw something on Facebook, I think some army or navy like wives welfare association, like they would organize some functions and stuff for the like their like wives who are living there, maybe in the like in the quarter who might be leaving, for them they would organize some maybe festivals and all. These are nothing but associations or like unions that they have formed. Like this welfare associations are very common for most of the departments we do see. Same ways cooperative societies. There may be some cooperative financial institutions where you can open some saving accounts, you can save money, you can also take loans from them also. These are also operating pretty good. I think this Nandini, that milk products that they sell, is it also cooperative society? Any idea? Nandini?
No idea.
No idea. Okay. I am not quite sure, but I think that is like a cooperative society only. Same ways, there is another cooperative society next to my house where it's like sort of a supermarket where they would sell like fresh vegetables and meat and fish and stuff. That is also run by some cooperative society. So like that, there may be different cooperative societies. I saw another one which is like in like a like a remote area. They would provide some basic necessities like rice, sugar and all that stuff in like a wholesale price, because people might not be willing to travel too much to go to a wholesale store. So they opened like a cooperative society where they were offering certain essentials at a like a lesser price. There may be, for different reasons, this may be established, which we have. Okay, next one, move freely throughout the territory of India.
The citizens can travel freely.
Yes.
From place to place within the country.
Yes. Within the country, we can move. So any restrictions that you have seen on this slide?
Last COVID time,
COVID
there was a lockdown period, and
yes,
movement was not allowed.
Yes, movement was not allowed, not even like outside the house, right? Some places. Yes, and when there was like this lockdown which was being imposed and the night curfew, this, that, there used to be like stories like on news, it used to be shown that people were going out for like a evening walk when it was already like night curfew was already like applicable. Then police came with like a bus, and then they asked all the people to get inside the bus, and then they dropped them in like near the airport, which is like very far from there, and they had to walk all the way to their home late at night. It was like 12, 11 o'clock, like that, because police was given the authority that if someone is not following the rules and regulations, you can do like take whatever step you feel is needed, right? So this is nothing but, otherwise we are free, but yes, there may be some restrictions or limitations. Normally also there are limitations, not like only COVID, otherwise also there are limitations for Arunachal Pradesh. Even though it's in India, even though a citizen is willing to visit Arunachal Pradesh, they would need some permit to enter there. Without permit, you cannot enter. This is nothing but sort of a right which is given to them just to protect the tribal community who is living there. Like considering their specific need, some specific provisions might be there. Same ways, I think for Lakshadweep also, you cannot just directly go there, just like how you would go to Goa, but you need to fulfill like some formalities that someone who is like a resident there need to refer you, that you are maybe their relative or some known person, you are going there, sort of a thing. So most people like don't, like easy, it's not that easy to go there. Maybe you would meet some travel agent or someone who would do like fulfill those formalities. After that only you can go. So that is also nothing but some like rules and regulations are there we need to follow. Otherwise we are free, but there may be some rules, regulations, restrictions which are applicable. Okay, next one. What about this one? Reside and settle in any part of the territory of India.
Says that one can reside in any part which he or she likes.
Any restrictions you have seen over there?
No idea, ma'am.
Okay. So reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, correct. Otherwise, we are free. We can settle anywhere in any part of India as well. Okay. So otherwise, we are free to reside and settle in any part in the territory of India. But yeah, there might be some restrictions. Like when we say settle, it's like settling down in a certain place, right? So there are places where you can go there, you can maybe rent a house and you can stay there, but you cannot like buy a property and settle there permanently. Like in Meghalaya, you cannot go and buy a property there unless and until you are like a person from the Khasi tribe, which is like the tribal community who live there. So those kind of provisions are applicable considering the specific needs and requirements of the tribal community. Like for protecting their interest, these rules and regulations are there. Same ways in Jammu and Kashmir also, like property was not allowed to be purchased from like by an outsider, right? Like when this special status was removed, there used to be everywhere like, can we buy property in Jammu and Kashmir, price of property in Jammu and Kashmir, all the news everywhere came. So there may be some places wherein these kind of restrictions may apply, that yes, you can go there, you can rent a house, you can stay there, but maybe you cannot buy a property or something like that. Next one, to practice any profession, carry on occupation, trade, business, etc. Any restrictions you have seen?
They should have the proper qualification.
Correct. Okay. Anything else? Yes, they should have the proper qualification. Sometimes it may be needed that, like in this article 16 we had seen, right, that it's like otherwise there should not be any discrimination, but sometimes residence might be needed, that the person is from that certain state, or maybe the person resided there for some duration. Those things might be needed. So in such cases, it would be like a condition that we need to fulfill or satisfy. Otherwise, we are free to enter into any profession or anything. So there may be certain things, like in case of law, even after completing your LLB, you cannot just straight away start practicing. You need to clear the Bar Council exam, get your license. After that, you can practice. Same ways for many other professions, license is needed. There may be some other occupations wherein you need to take approvals, permissions, NOCs from different bodies, different departments. There may be some trade or business wherein you need to get yourself registered, like shops and establishment. You cannot simply open a shop. You need to register the shop under Shops and Establishment Act. To maintain that registration, you need to pay some annual fee and all the formalities. Whatever formalities are there, those needs to be fulfilled. Like if I want to open like a liquor shop next to a college, I cannot simply go and open it. I need to take permissions, approval, so many formalities are there. So after fulfilling those formalities, if we are having the eligibility criteria and everything, then we are free to practice any profession, trade, etc. And this case that we had discussed, CP Berar Motor Vehicles, right? That same one was also related to Article 19(1)(g). Same ways, if you talk about Article 19(1)(e), 19(1)(a), these were referred in Menka Gandhi case, which we have in Article 21. So it's mostly like you read one article, like one case, that same case may be referred for 3-4 articles as well, because in Constitution, articles, especially fundamental rights, are like related with one another. Whatever is the case, mostly Article 14, something from Article 19 and 21 would come only. So like that, you can see whatever the like articles are, you can refer the same thing. Okay, and one best thing to do is you can simply search that particular case, whatever you are reading for that matter, from wherever, you can open it, and over here you will see what other articles are there. See, the same case we discussed in Article 13, Same is relevant for Article 19(1)(g) also. Like that, you can just search the case in Indian Kanun and whatever articles you are getting, right? Mostly all these articles were referred in this case. But now you might say it's like a very lengthy document, right? Say it's this big of a document. And for most of the cases, it will be like a lengthy document. You might not have time to read this entire thing. So what you can do is you can maybe search this one part. Like if you are reading Article 19(1)(g), you can simply search this part. Whatever was held relating to Article 19(1)(g) in this case, you will get those, right? So those 2-3 sentences you can read. From there, like you can infer something like, see, this is Article 19(1)(g). That part only you can read, and maybe you can like derive a conclusion also. Like that you can like reading less number of cases also, you would have enough of cases to refer for all the articles that are there. Okay, so all these like clause 1 is all about the different types of rights. Clause 2 talks about the reasonable restrictions which might be there, because these freedoms are not absolute. Fundamental right as such is also not absolute. These are subject to like reasonable restrictions. So restrictions may be operation of any existing law, prevent the state from making any law, or impose reasonable restriction. Parliament may impose certain restrictions considering that it affects sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign state, public order, decency, morality, contempt of court, defamation, incitement to an offense, etc. Okay, so certain reasonable restrictions may be imposed in exercising these rights which are provided to us under Article 19. Now, when we talk about this reasonable restrictions, there was this case, Prashant Bhushan had tweeted something on his Twitter handle, and then there was this entire contempt case. Have you read or have you come across this case?
An advocate?
Yes, advocate. You have read this somewhere?
Just the headlines.
Just the headlines. Okay, so basically there were like 3-4 tweets from him wherein he mentioned that, you know, like Supreme Court had like a role to play in how democracy is working in today's in the present time, like in the last 6 years, how democracy has worked. Supreme Court has sort of a major role to play over there, like in a negative sense, he said. Then this Chief Justice of India was riding, not like riding, he was basically posing there in Harley Davidson. There also he had like commented that this is belonging to BJP leader. So like that, there were all these tweets which were being tweeted by him, and based on that, one person filed the petition before Supreme Court, but then there were some procedural things which were lacking, so that petition was basically not entertained. But Supreme Court, these things came in notice of Supreme Court. So Supreme Court suo moto took action against him, filed a complaint case, and he was held guilty to pay 1 rupee fine as well for this entire thing, because there was so much of controversy on that like he was charged for contempt of court charges. So at last, Supreme Court just imposed 1 rupee fine on him, and he just paid the amount. And after that, he was like, no, I did not, like, just because I paid the fine, that does not mean I like approve the judgment. I'm going for an appeal. So that I think is still pending. Okay, so this is nothing but the restriction that we are talking about, right? It talks about contempt of court. In relation to contempt of court, it may be incitement of an offense. It may be affecting sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, all these things. Same ways, toolkit case, have you heard of it? Related to farmers' protest last year? No. Okay, so related to this farmers protest which was going on, basically a toolkit was prepared, like one proper entire document wherein different links and all the stuff were given, like how you can support basically the farmers who were protesting. That document was published, but then that was published from like a foreign activist, but then it was like observed that Disha Ravi, who is a climate activist from India, she also like made some changes in that document, and she also had like some role to play. And after that, there was this violence which took place in Delhi related to the protest. So she was also arrested. Like basically, an FIR was filed against her in Cyber Cell Delhi police station, and she was arrested based on that. So there were charges for criminal conspiracy, sedition, promoting hatred amongst group. All these charges were there. She was arrested and then she was kept in judicial as well as police custody for a total of 10 days. Okay, for 10 days she was kept in custody. But what happened is that in order to prove that yes, actually she had made some changes here and there, she added some information, they needed support from these like different like entities that like Google, Zoom, Global Environment Movement. They needed some support. So Cybercell basically requested for some information, but they did not receive any information from Zoom, Google, etc. And receiving that information was like very much important for them. Only when they would have received that information, they could have confirmed that yes, Disha Ravi has also some role to play in that toolkit thing. But because they did not receive any report, any update from these bodies, they were not able to sort of conclude the investigation. They were not able to file a charge sheet or a challan where actually her, like they would have some evidence and stuff. It was not there. So it was just pending for so many months. I think they would just like close the matter now because it's already been like almost a year. So they were not receiving any information. In that case, they don't have any evidences or anything. So they had to release. These are again nothing but examples how freedom of speech and expression a person tries to use that, and then how like cases are being filed. And sometimes this part has been like misused also, just because it is said that okay, this is subject to reasonable restrictions. Sometimes these restrictions might not be reasonable as well. So you can give some cases as well, plus some situation that keeps on happening. You can refer those as well, that in so and so case, this person tried to enjoy his freedom of speech and expression, but in turn, this case was filed or so and so FIR was being registered. Okay. Is this part clear, Article 19?
Yes, ma'am.
So I saw one question on Article 19. I will try to add some cases as well when we are doing the question paper.